Up and About podcast. Thanks for joining us on your favourite Wednesday gig. Brought to you this evening, of course, by LRF Sports. All your sporting apparel in Australasia. Give them a call. Nico, welcome to yourself, mate. You look well. You sound very sexy at the moment. You're a little bit under the weather, mate. What's happening? You all right?
We'll just take a mouthful of water there, Nathan, to ensure that the decibel sounds good. And hello, Shane. Hello, everyone. I've got a bit of feedback, boys. Had some feedback. I'm prepared to give a lot of feedback to other people. A bit of feedback people saying that for someone who is up and about, and the show is up and about, I've been a bit dour. So I apologise, and I'll probably ask you to switch off now if you expect things to be fruitful from me this evening. Shane, congratulations to the Saints, and congratulations on the Philippines taking out Plate of Origin on the season finale tonight.
Thanks, Nick. Welcome. G'day, Nathan. Hope all's well, gents. Nick, I can't wait. There's going to be some fireworks tonight. They're going to be shooting all over the place for the next 60 minutes, so stay tuned, guys. But look, it's very exciting. The Greeks got up in the big final. They beat the Vietnamese chaps, and it was riveting. I was glued to the chair, and I smashed a couple of plates to celebrate. So go the Greeks! Woo!
Did they have to cook a plate of their natural cuisine, or was it like adapted? What was it?
Yeah, it had to be a culturally appropriated meal. It was a 3-course meal in the end. The Vietnamese, I won't spoil it because I'm sure there's people out there who've got it on replay, but they cooked rice paper rolls for entree, which is quite surprising. Very, very nice. It looks great.
Go on, Nick.
Sorry, I was going to say, what is and we're all good connoisseurs of a nice meal. What's the Vietnamese dish where it's a really, you're going to tell me it's like what you said, it's a really light, it's almost like a contraceptive type material around vegetables. What's that called?
That'd be the rice paper roll, wouldn't
it? Is it really?
What, the pill? I think I know what you're talking about, Nick.
Is that
more through?
What's it called? Yeah, like it's like
paper roll. Yes, yeah. Rice paper.
Reminds me of a hot dog that Darcy Ivers served at the MCG about a decade ago.
Shout out to Darcy.
Good.
But we all like Greek food, eh? Because surely the Greeks will get up, and you're not allowed to say.
They're a big show.
Yeah, fair enough. How do you go in the kitchen, Shane? How do you go in the kitchen?
I'm not bad. Not bad. I've got the large wok. I do wield a beautiful roast out every now and then.
You've got
very handy on. Sorry, Nick. Keep going.
So you got a large what? Did you say?
Wok.
Good.
I've got a couple of fry pans. Got the old air fryer, and obviously got the Weber outside to enjoy a frothy while we cook a large slab of non-vegan material. So. Yeah, mate, I consider myself to be quite the connoisseur, and maybe we can have a little bit of a cook-off during the summer break.
Oh, mate, it'll be no cook-off. I'll cook my carnivorous nachos, and it'll put whatever dish you want to bring forward to Shane. Fantastic. But, mate, I've done something special for you blokes in the previous hour before the show. We went into the start of the season blind tipping. That wasn't by choice. That's just how it evolved on account of I didn't keep track of it. So went through, and I've got an update for you, gents. I thought we'd lift the veil going into the final series. I can tell you I am not winning. So let me ask you this. Here's an idea. Going into the final series, we'll keep the tipping going through. Now, are we going to give double points for final series, or are we just keeping it nice and easy, single points, just lift the veil, and off we go?
If I was to hazard a guess, I think the only way to keep the tipping interesting is to provide you with triple points and me with double points. Would that be a fair statement?
Look, I don't know if it's a fair statement, but it definitely would make things more interesting.
Yep. Go with the bonus point system.
Shane, what do you reckon there, mate?
Well, are we putting a little bit of a wager on the result here? Are we putting something on this?
Look, I'm definitely interested to do that for season 2021, but it would be a fool to jump in 3/4 of the way through a competition and then put some sort of monetary prize at the end of it. I think that would be
foolish, would you?
It'd be unethical, foolish, and it's not really setting a good example. So let's do it for next year, Shane. I'm a
Good,
big fan
good.
of that. So
Okay,
look,
the plan. I'm
let's
happy with it. You times 3, Nick times 2,
no,
times 1.
We'll keep it double points in the final series. I think that's all right. So I'll kick it off with myself. I am not leading. I'm rather trailing at 81 points for the series. Now we did miss a few games, bear in mind, but 81 points for myself. Shane, we'll do you next day, mate. Shane, you are sitting on 91 points.
Yes.
And then we've got Nick, the surprise package. Nick comes in at 89.
Oh. Now, 1989 was a grand final where Hawthorn played against Geelong, and one of the most courageous things you've ever seen was Robert Dibby Medico. I think people should just have a look back at the 1989 grand final and see what Dipper put himself through. I wonder what off the field Dipper, but on the field, outstanding on your Dipper, and good to be 2 points behind you, Shane. And Nathan, that's okay. It must be difficult. I know that you've probably watched more games than me and Shane this year. The unfortunate thing is you watch them after they've been played, so it's probably an issue with your tipping there slightly.
Yeah, look, we've learnt a lot this year, haven't we? So next year should be interesting. But Shane, I might throw it over to yourself, mate. Let's have a look at, I guess, the teams that haven't made the final series.
Yep.
And we might just run our careful eyes through their roster. So Shane, take us through this.
Here comes some rigorous analysis, viewers. Be careful. Write them all down because they'll all come through or will be listened to by several recruitment staff across this great land of ours. Now, this here is a segment. We are focusing on the 10 teams that have missed the finals this year, and we are going to run our rule over them. This is thanks to Hallowed Grounds Espresso for all your caffeinated and decaffeinated requirements in the Mount Gravatt district. Thanks very much, guys. Can't wait to have a show over the summer break. I keep talking about summer break. It's very warm here in Brisbane. I'm ready for it, but I can't wait to have a show hosted by you guys in the coming months. So we're going to start from the bottom, and we are going to work towards the 9th team who were Melbourne this year. So the team that was struggling at the bottom for the majority of the year, they ended there, Adelaide. Now, guys, out of 10, what do they need? Who don't they need? Let's get ruthless.
Yeah, I'll captain the team here. I can give you some breaking news, boys, and announce that Scott Burns, the former Collingwood captain, has just been signed as their senior assistant coach. I flagged him as their coach. I think the time that might have been, they've had 3 coaches. I know that Philip Walsh obviously tragically passed away, but I think it was around the time that Walsh was appointed. I think I flagged Scott Burns as potentially the man to take over, and then I thought it might have been his second coming. Unfortunately, no for him. So he heads over there. They've cleaned out some assistant coaches. I know that Ben Hart has headed back to Victoria. He'll land a gig there. So off field, that's a significant appointment for Adelaide in terms of having someone come in who is another person removed from the horrendous camp that we keep hearing so much about. I don't mind if Tex goes again, to be honest. I know that you guys might probably think differently. I know they've listed a couple of kids today. I've only played bit part games here and there, but they're probably going to be happy with what they've seen for the last little period and go with a similar looking side, but get a big preseason into them. Nathan, Shane.
Yeah, look, I don't know what to say about Adelaide, mate, to be honest with you. I know they come all right in the back end at best. Like even they have a lot of work to do. Let's just cut the crap. Adelaide have a lot of work to do. No camps pre-season. Let's try that for a start. Shane, what would you do with Adelaide, mate, if you had the reins?
Oh, look, I'd tear them apart. I think you need to. There's a couple of guys there that you can get some value for. They have to bottom out. They have to go to the draft. Brad Crouch is supposedly being shopped around to a variety of suitors, so he can go and do his thing.
Who is that? Is anyone genuinely looking at him? Because Nick's brought him up a few times in the last few years. The old rack him up.
He'll get a big deal. He'll get a big deal, Brad.
From Essendon?
Geelong, Port Adelaide. Michael
Gold Coast.
supported Port Adelaide. Very, very interested. He's the one out of the Crouch brothers you take. So I think he will get a big deal elsewhere, and he'll fly away and do his thing. So look, I think it's Tex. I would question someone like a Rory Laird, Rory Atkins, a couple of those guys who were in the premiership squad, can still play good footy. I think get them out, get some value, get some kids, and start the rebuild.
I'm happy with what they did in the last couple of weeks. We wrote them off. You know, I'm going back over what I said. We said that they were horrendous, but they showed enough signs. They were super competitive against Richmond for 3 quarters in a game that I guess didn't. It could have cost them the number 1 pick if they won the game. So I liked to see them finish off the way they did. They'll be okay. Nothing's ever as good as, and I'll say this after every team, nothing's as good as people think it is, and nothing's as bad as what people make out it to be. I think that's probably the summary for the Crows this year.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Shana, who we got next?
Moving on to the Kangaroos. So spicy from the top. We've got Ben Brown, who has somehow received consent from his club to go and seek some additional some other suitors across the league. So that's hot. The 11 delistings on a Friday morning after a Thursday night match last week was, don't want to use the word unprecedented. That was spicy. Our friend who Majak got his charity year, he'll never play AFL again. Jamie McMillan, there's a couple of guys there who you thought might have had a little bit of a tribute match or a thank you match, but no, ruthless, hard. And what are your thoughts on that approach, guys?
They had to do it. They had to do it. It was either the players or the coaching staff. You get rid of one of them in one foul swoop. You go again.
It sends a confusing message to me with what's happened at North Melbourne. So they fell in love with Reece Shaw last year on the back of taking over from Brad Scott. They were he forced their hand in the appointment, and then they get rid of essentially a third of their list. And you've still got players like Higgins who won't be there next year, Brown won't be there next year. So players probably on the other side of 30 who are looking at having some success and won't be around for a rebuild. It's a full rebuild here, North Melbourne. I don't think that's what they were signing Reece Shaw up for. That's the confusing message. So if I'm a North Melbourne supporter, I'm confused. Not many of those guys that you said, Shane, who have been delisted will find new homes at the elite level. So we wish them all the very best with what they do. And on a serious note, as far as Majak goes, I hope that he's in a good space to head back to the Wynnum Vale Falcons and make them a powerhouse in the WRFL.
Good work, Nick. I was waiting for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's move on to the Sydney Swans. So I think out of all the teams that have bottomed out, they appear probably a little bit like Freo, where they are regenerating on the fly. They do still have some senior guys, the Kennedys and the Parkers who are rolling around, Buddy in the wings. But some of their kids that have emerged in the second half of the year in particular have been particularly impressive. So Papley signed on, which I think is very important for them.
Yeah.
Who do they go for, guys? What's the missing link in order to get them back in the 8?
Well, they miss Buddy. What are we doing with him?
I think I've said during the year, I don't think you'll see Buddy Franklin play football again. That's my honest opinion. I think you might hear in the coming weeks Sydney exploring something with the AFL as to how they can make that contract disappear, and I hope the AFL hold ground, because it was a moral contract to begin with, in my opinion, in terms of how that was done. I don't think he would have been the difference for GWS had he gone there, but there's still 2 years to go on the contract at $1 million a pop. Unless they medically retire him, I can't see any way around that. Coaching wise, Steve Johnson departs the football club and heads back to GWS. So assistant coach wise, that opens up an opportunity there for a forwards coach. But who knows what the coaching department will look like with all the changes and money and structures and all that type of thing. But the big one is Papley, him recommitting to the football club and speaking so passionately about John Longmire. That's a massive tick for them. They won't get Danaher. So Danaher's touring Brisbane, if you heard that today, boys. Did you hear that one?
No.
Well, he's up here. So I think he just needs to stroll down the road. Where are Essendon staying? Are they staying in Queensland? Are they?
Got nowhere else to go.
Yeah. So, but the word that I got today was that he was touring Brisbane facilities. So there's a joke. There's a joke in that. You got a gym that's saturated that people get. I was about to say, what's the disease you get when the stuff's wet? Okay, we're alive, aren't we? Not gangrene, but it's like that. Anyway, it went through there a few years ago. The underground. How do you think Sydney will go, Shane?
Sorry, Nick. Sorry, we'll come back to you on that. I think the Swans are going to go after another big name. I think a big centre half back, big centre half forward. I think you imagine they've got a little bit of money in the kitty to go out there and spend. So, but I like the way they looked at that second half of the year. If you can keep Parker fit and get Kennedy for another full year, the engine room's solid. Get some of those kids, get Haney back as well, who didn't play much this year. So Rampy, another one. So there's enough quality that's missed, but also they've put some time into the kids, which is exciting.
Mate, we'll move on to the next team. For me, season 2020, this team was the most disappointing team this season in the Hawthorn Hawks. I think on paper, I think they should have scraped finals at worst. So I'm not quite sure what's doing down there. Shane, you shed any light there, mate?
Yeah, I can't. No, I'm just assuming because I've got no idea what's going on anywhere. But I'll throw a bit of conjecture out there. There's one particular player that I'm very interested to know more about, and I just look at his body language. He's a class act, multiple All-Australian at another club. Chad Wingard. I don't know. I look at him, and it's been commented by people who are very close to Hawthorn that they just don't really know where he stands, what position he's going to play. And just some of the body language and interactions with his teammates on the field doesn't look all that positive. So he's only a couple of years into a fairly sizable deal with the Hawks, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is thrown around there as a little bit of trade bait in the coming weeks.
What are they paying him? What's he on?
Oh, as a matter of fact, I'm going to say shitloads, but he's a $500,000 or $600,000 a year guy, I'd imagine. If you bear with me, Nick, if you could take some a little bit of attention off me, I can look down at my phone.
Yeah, you do that. I've just been searching what wet wound illness I was referring to before. I can't. Well, the only thing, anytime you put anything into Google about illness, you just get flooded with coronavirus. So it wasn't coronavirus, I can tell you that. Hawthorn, yeah. So they're keeping Burgoyne on, you'd imagine, because the off-field side of things, the cost cutting, he'll be there and in a coaching capacity, and he deserves absolutely to get a run at 400. But then, yeah, like I thought if they were to get rid of all the old blokes, it'd be all the old blokes, not keep a couple. So we've seen Piopolo and Stratton play their last game on the weekend. Stratton won't play again. Piopolo, don't be surprised if someone looks to pick him up. And also Jesus, I'm on fire today, boys. It's been a big week. The former Adelaide player that played really well, had a really good season last year, Shane. He's gone too.
Yeah.
You're not working with me here, are you? Jeez.
Hey, I'm just trying to find out how much this bloody prick got paid. You're trying to look out at bloody wet illnesses and viruses and band-aids.
Well, it's like gangrene. What's it called? Like where you can almost lose a limb. You know what I mean? Like if it, like it's like when like you have an open wound and then Staph. Thank you. I should have thought of B105's breakfast crew.
The Greek staff.
Lababian staff. Are they still? Is that who it is?
Long termers. They've been excellent, haven't they? Wow.
Is Shelley Strawn still do Triple M breakfast? I don't know. Hawthorn. Yeah. So they're I think they'll be similar sort of looking side next year, but they've got like it's hard to tell what are they going to do. Are they going to go and bring in 5 players that gets them back in the mix? Are they going to go to the draft? I don't know. And Kennett's going again. He's clashing with Clarkson. There's a whole lot to play out at the Hawks, isn't there? Are we going to hear a coaching announcement where you hear like a Clarkson's going to go for one more and Sam Mitchell's going to take over? I think that of all football stories, what's happening at Hawthorn over the summer is going to be one that you really want to tune into.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Agreed. Let's now move on to the
legends.
the
most exciting, electrifying.
Yes. So this is the legend that we don't have any authoritative information as to whether they've actually been legendary at any particular time.
What are you talking about?
Okay, they are an absolute disappointment for season 2020.
Ricky Henderson was the Hawthorn player.
Oh, Ricky, yeah.
Yep, sorry.
Did he win a B&F?
He won the best and fairest last year, I think. So sorry to chop you off there on the run. So we've established 2 main things here. We get there in the end. Staff is the illness. Ricky Henderson is the player who's calling it quits.
I can't wait for tomorrow's headline.
Injured.
Henderson delisted because of staff.
Because of staff, yeah, correct. Yeah. And you'll also get the traffic report. So like, sorry.
All right. Okay. So the Gold Coast Suns. Now, I'll put it to you that their top 22 players have been available for more games this year than any other team in the AFL. I'm just going to throw it out there. I know everyone's talking about Matt Rowell early on. He was sitting there with his bow tie on and looking a little bit nerdy. But I can't think of major injuries across the rest of that group, which have meant that the second half of the year, they have been utterly diabolical.
Mate, but the average age is fucking 21.7.
Okay. Yep. So they're not injured. They're young. And Brandon Ellis and Jared Halbrow and Jared Witts and David Swallow and all these other guys who are they're B graders at best. So where do they go? They have to go back and have to put more time into a King, Lukosius, Rowell, Anderson. There's a core group of kids that do just sit back and go, well, hopefully they all grow up together and they become good at 25. Is that another 4 years of waiting for the AFL community?
A handful of their senior players were probably a little bit disappointing. That's fair, but you can't brand the entire team disappointing. For me, as far as don't worry about where your victories were in the season. You look at the season overall. Now, obviously, you would have preferred a few wins in the back end. They probably lost a couple of games there. They were a little bit close, and you would have liked to chalk them up as a win. But as far as the number of victories, I believe that they overachieved what the majority of pundits, probably ourselves included, had chalked for them pre-season.
It's probably a fair point. I think you both raised really good points. I think that people overplayed them early days. I found it a little bit odd. Old source said 18-year-old with the headphones on in the box every single game after he got hurt. Like it just looked more like just letting.
They put the silver they put the cape on him already, haven't they? They've said no worries, mate. You're going to be the next captain. Like it's a lot of pressure to put on a young kid. I know he seems like he's very mature and he seems like a nice guy and he's obviously got some footy smarts about him. Great player. But was that played up in the media a little bit as well, or do you think there was with the smoke there's fire 9 times out of 10?
Well, humans generally pump stuff up out of proportion when there's nothing to talk about, and that's what the media do. And it was funny actually. On a side note, listening to a podcast, the rugby league podcast during the week about a bloke who said during the Sydney Olympics, I was doing reflections, which that could be our next segment, talking about 20 years since Sydney 2000 Olympics. But he spoke about having to write a story, the pressure of having to find a story to write. So essentially magnifying something that mightn't have been overly significant. And that aligning with the Gold Coast Suns. But I would say this, would you ever think that when Collingwood delisted Jared Witts a number of years ago that he would be looking down the barrel of becoming a 2-time AFL best and fairest winner? And to me, that's like he's serviceable, but he's potentially going to be a 2-time best and fairest winner. But Sam Collins, he's can we adopt him? I think we liked his work this year. Sam Collins down in defence.
Yeah.
Love his attitude. Box Hill boy. I really like the look of him and his competitiveness. Took Miller was good, and he's in the leadership group. I think he's staying around. Hugh Greenwood was a great pickup, and I love his attitude in defending himself on social media. You mentioned Lukosius, so I won't cover back over him. You know, David Swallow, the most loyal Gold Coast son of all time, along with Jared Harbrow, I should say as well. These guys here, if you add those guys that were missing and injured, I know Shane's point about the 22. I just think that there's something there. They're coming into blossom. They're coming into blossom, and one of those funny years this year where they could have, should have, would have, but probably get protected a bit by the COVID. And I wonder who that staffer. Wonder what staffer it was who leaked, pardon the pun, the footage of Stuart Dew. I wonder what staffer that was, because I tell you right here and now, disgrace, not Stuart Dew's act, the leaking of that for someone's personal gain or to get back at the fact of the football changes that have been made at that football club. That human is insipid and should never be allowed to work in the football industry ever again. And I'm being serious. Not talking about Stuart Dew did. What Stuart Dew did, name a person that hasn't done that. And for that video to be leaked and whatnot, I think the football club have handled it really well. He's taken full responsibility and move on quickly. But who was the person behind the camera? I'd love for that to get leaked.
It's a great reflection on, I guess, the character that they hold themselves. And I think that was well put, Nick. I wouldn't touch them with a bar of soap. Should be ashamed of yourself. But Shane, let's get off the Suns, mate.
Moving on, this team here are the worst of the 10 in my view. They are. This is Essendon. Okay, let's just go through it. So we've got the Worsfold handover to Rutten, which has been a takeover. It's been really unusual. Worsfold seems to have coached it a little bit the first half of the year, but pretty much handed over the reins entirely, jumped off the horse. Worsfold on his way out has had an absolute savaging at the membership of the Essendon Football Club with their fairly reasonable expectation as paid up members of a very successful club, that they wanted some success in the coming period of time, and Worsfold has put a very solid dampener on that. Joe Danaher has come back for a couple of games and was kind of serviceable. Connor McKenna, done and dusted. The year from hell, in my view. So what do they do with Joe? How do they do it? My feeling is that he's got to go. But what else do they need? If they get rid of a Joe, do they go to the draft? The supporters won't accept them bottoming out. So what do they look like in 2021, Bundog?
They got to bring some new players in. I think you bang on the money. You got to get rid of Joe. Even if he was to turn around now and say, look, I'm happy to stay, I wouldn't have him. I think he's a disruption. I think he's a huge disruption. I like him as a player. But I wouldn't want him at my club. No way. If he wanted to stay, he would have said so by now. So I reckon you'd get rid of him. You'd get top dollar as much as you could for him. I think they need a genuine key forward. There's a lot of teams this year that have probably missed a genuine old school key forward. I think it'd do Essendon well. McDonald, Tip and Woody, one of my favourite players. I love watching him week in, week out. So I think if you had a key forward there, the crumbing that he has is it'd be tremendous to watch. But I don't think you may see some slight improvements from Essendon next year. I wouldn't expect much.
It's the worst coaching handover of all of them. So I've written a couple down here on the fly. So technically, when Matthews was out, Voss was always coming in. The one that's always spoken about is Malthouse and Buckley, because Malthouse was senile in his last couple of years at Collingwood, then continued that, then destroyed Carlton. So there's relative success there. The Melbourne one, which we'll talk about in a minute, Paul Roos handing the keys over. And this one here, it's so confusing. It's been weird to watch. We flagged early in the piece with this podcast, who is coaching Essendon? It's just so hard to work out what was going on. And Worsfold in press conferences was about as inspiring as a unsanded piece of pine. I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand that. And then Rutten was a boring dour footballer, and he's presented so far as a boring dour coach. And he's read the articles about what people have said about things, and then he's basically just repeated them back and said, "Yeah, that's what we're going to do." So Mark, the alcoholic Robinson's come out and gone, "Mate, they need to do this, mate. They need to do that, mate." And then he's come out and said, "We're going to do this and we're going to do that." So if I'm an Essendon supporter, I know we had Payne on the other week, and he was really concerned about things. I'm worried as an Essendon supporter. Danaher has to go, you're right. If you don't want to be somewhere, don't be there. And, he flagged he's wanted out. Unfortunately, I think that if medicals and things don't go away, there's an offer there for him to stay, boys. So he may just stay, but there needs more consistency around there. All similar sort of players, all these guys, Shield and Devon, they're all very similar types, small, in and under. They just, Stringer's unfit. Yeah, I don't know. They'll probably finish in the top 4 next year. I've said all that.
No. Yeah, you're fair points. But most disappointing team of the year, guys?
I got Hawks still. I got Hawthorn.
Yep.
They're not far. They're a podium finished at worst.
Well said. They're getting a medal, aren't they?
All right, let's move to Freo, guys. This is the team that I'm most excited about, and I believe will play in the finals next year. So just having a quick look through some of their stars. They've got quite a few. Working on, got obviously Nat Fyfe as the leader and the champion footballer. But some of their young stars, we've got Brayshaw. So Payne was number 2 draft pick back in 2017. Chera, number 5 back in 2017. And Sarong, who by all reports is going to win the Norwich Rising Star, whatever it's called these days, Nico. But he was number 8 back in 2017. So I think the fact that they put the time into these kids, they are stars of the very near future. Out of the young midfielders, that is probably alongside Gold Coast would be a young brigade who are going to come through pretty strong and hopefully stick together for a period of time. So I'm excited for them. Justin Longmuir, ex-Collingwood assistant coach, has done an absolutely outstanding job with a pretty tough initiation at the start of the year. They didn't expect to do a whole lot, but I think he's bound them together, and they've played some really excellent footy throughout the year.
You know that I'm a big fan of Longmuir's work. He was very understated in the work he did at the Pies. Just got a couple of stats here, boys, because I did a bit of research on Fremantle at the same time I was ranting about Essendon. So this is the highest the Dockers have finished since 2015 when they were the minor premiers, right? The highest they've finished. So this is why Fremantle supporters should be excited. How about the fact that I know it's shortened games? How about the fact that their average losing margin this year was 22 points. So they're in games for longer, and that's down from 7 goals plus the previous 4 or 5 seasons since that grand final. What about having 4 players in the under 22, 22 under 22 squad, whatever is that a real thing? Is that the AFL endorsed thing?
Real thing now, yeah.
Okay, so it was just done by nerdy blokes on Big Footy, and now it's a real thing. So I think the AFL might have employed those nerdy blokes. Probably not so much anymore, because you used to get paid to pump footies up at AFL. You don't do that anymore. But Sean Darcy, Brayshaw, Sarong, and there's one more. Who would that be?
Sarah?
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Was it him? Yeah. Sarong will probably win the Rising Star. Yeah, so that's another one. Probably going forward, and pardon the pun here, they just probably need another strong forward, don't they? Like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, getting Fifey down there too much, but Tabernar's been enormous for them, and it looks as though I'm really good with names tonight. Who's the bloke?
Hogan.
Jesse Hogan. Yeah, I don't think that they've played him in the back line at times this year. I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, if they were going to play him forward, they would have given him a sniff in the last month. They didn't do that. So for me, if you're a Fremantle supporter, you should be excited. They're like, is 530 yet? Like he's still got 6 or 7 years, surely. Don't know his age, but run with it. Fremantle could turn it around really, really quickly.
Agreed.
Life is definitely 29.
Good Googling.
I haven't, but I will now. Jesus Christ. All right.
He's not retiring like Ricky Henderson, and he doesn't have staff.
He is 29. Shit, there you go.
Oh, not bad, Nathan.
And 29 on the 18th of September there, Nat. So
Happy birthday.
mate.
Oh,
So is Shane, you've got an ode for him tonight? An ode. Oh, no, he's got an ode. Don't make me laugh. Play on.
right. The Baggers, the Blue Baggers. So overall, I think a very successful year for David Teague and his men. They were competitive in a lot of games. They won a few games that one wouldn't have expected. I think they found a star. Harry Mackay, I think, is a real star down forward, and got a bit of youth on his side as well. So Jack Martin was a good recruit. Played his role. Cripps needed a bit of support, but all in all, a pretty solid season. Where do they go from here? How do they take the step into the 8th? What are your thoughts there, Nathan?
Well, I mean, they showed glimpses, didn't they? There was a lot to like about Carlton this year. They just need consistency. I don't think they need to change too much. Big fan of Jack Martin. I expected a little bit more of him. So we'll see what he can bring. He beefed up a little bit, obviously, but yeah, I reckon good things from Carlton. I don't think you'd see too much change, just more development, more consistency across 2021, and they should make finals. They should finish 7th or 8th, I would have thought, next year.
Yeah, I think they're ready to take the next step, but that's been, they've had 1,000 slogans and mottos about the next step, and I think that Cade Simpson retiring is going to be an enormous loss for them because he's been their most consistent player for the last decade, and it's been a decade of horrendous results for them as a football club, but he's been their most consistent player, and that's something that shouldn't go unsaid. And don't be surprised if, I know we've read a bit of this, is there a club that might offer him that playing assistant coach type role that keeps his career going? I think maybe not, but it wouldn't surprise me. But Cruiser retires. They've listed a couple of kids today. I don't see them bringing too many big names in. A little bit surprised about Eddie going again, but happy because love watching Eddie play. Yeah, I'll have Carlton in my finals calculation. I'm not going to say my 8, but my finals calculations for 2021.
It'll be interesting. It'll be fascinating when we finally hear from Simpson when the dust is settled after the season to work out whether this was totally his decision. I would be extremely surprised if they were to push someone out like that who had been playing such excellent footy despite his age and playing probably one of the most challenging roles in an underperforming side, a small back like that. He's been incredible over the journey. So, Johnny Cade. All right, now we're getting towards the pointy end. The Greater Western Sydney Giants finished 10th. They had a chance over the past couple of weeks to shore themselves in the 8. They've lost both of those games, and they were rattled by my mob last Friday night. So this is particularly challenging. There's going to be conversations, of course, around all of their quality, their stars. They're all on the shopping list. Every club would want a Cameron, Green, Whitfield, Kelly. They're all on long-term deals. They're all signed up, apart from Cameron, sorry. But most of them are signed up on long-term deals. What do the Giants do with their classy 5, 6 super players? Williams is already gone. Aiden Core is already gone as some of those best 22 sort of guys. But how hard will it get? How deep will it get in terms of losses for the Greater Western Sydney Giants over the summer?
I think you've answered yourself there, Shane. You've mentioned a lot of champion individual players. A lot of champion individual players that the way I perceive things is that they might go home and dust their MVPs off and put a bit of Glen 20 on some of the individual awards, but it takes a special breed, a special group and a collective to stick fat with each other and get team success. And I know that people say, because they have to salary cap and you can't keep X amount of high draft picks on your list. Well, you can. you can do that. Clubs have proven that people have taken the Brisbane of the early 2000s. I know they had the extra coin and whatever, but people did take cuts to stay and be successful and could have gone elsewhere. That's folklore, and people wear that as a badge of honour. Now, I haven't seen anyone sacrifice anything to stay at GWS. And I don't see anything when they're playing that screams, geez, this bloke really plays for him and goes above and beyond and do something for him. So, yeah, for me, I consider the Giants going backwards. They've missed their opportunity. And, yeah, some of these individuals that want to get out and chase, it's funny to see when they go to other clubs and how they buy into their culture, or whether other clubs would look at doing that. Jeremy Cameron damaged his brand this year. He was terrible. And saying that, he was playing on the wing at times. It looked weird. So we did do a bit of a Gold Coast versus GWS thing a few podcasts ago. So I won't go through the amount of players on their list that won't be in the next premiership team, because you can go back and have a look at that on an earlier potty. But the Suns, even though we canned a little bit there, I think the Suns are looking a little bit better than the Giants moving forward. Nathan, that should excite you as a Gold Coast man.
Huge. I'm going to actually change my tip of the hat to the most disappointing team from Hawthorn onto GWS. How do you not make? Well, I mean, plenty of teams have done it, but you take Toby Green out of the equation. You point out one other player that's played above expectations for 2020. You'd struggle. You would really struggle. Just on your point, Nico, it's almost like all the plaudits surrounding GWS's recruitment strategy early on in the piece were there, and people saying the Gold Coast were just picking a lot of pretty players that had silky skills that didn't want to get in and get the hard ball, and they weren't team players. It's almost like it's two sides of the coin now. So it's almost like that strategy is jumped ship to the opposite team, which is great if you're a Gold Coast Sun supporter. A little bit concerning if you're GWS. Shane, in answer to the question, I would cash in. If I was GWS, I would piss off 3/4 of these players and get as much coin for them as you can, because I think they're going to go a little bit backwards anyway, so you may as well get paid for it.
Good call. Good call. A super clean out. And that's, I guess you have to then look at Leon Cameron. He's been in the role for a long time now. Can he bring something back from the precipice last year? They felt like in a big heap, of course, but can they rebound so quickly? It hasn't happened. So you look at someone like Melbourne, who truly bottomed out last year, recovered a little bit this year, but does Leon Cameron have the ability? Do we know whether he's got the ability to reunite this fractured squad?
They re-signed him for 3 years. So with the way that people are trying to find dollar here and there with the current crisis economically, it'd be a brave move to shaft him. But I'll leave you with this one on them. Similar sort of position to St Kilda were when Ross Lyon came in to that football club. So we're having some good times and then starting to sort of peter off. And the Giants had more good times than St Kilda through that period. But is Ross, and he's only it always happens like this, is Ross the man to come in and just eyeball a couple of people? Don't know. I don't think they'll get it. They get him in as a specialist. I don't think he's the type of guy. He's either all in or not at all, Ross. So, yeah, but that'll play out.
Nick, there's always an opportunity for something like that, Nick. Nick.
Yeah, I always tell players. I say to them, there's two types of people in the world. There's the people who buy in, and there's the people who sit on the fringes. All right, so if you want to be a part of something successful, buy in, take a risk. Take a risk.
The job interview done. Thanks, Nico.
Yeah, good.
All right, let's land it. Let's the ninth team this year, the Melbourne Demons. So a couple of notes that I made. I think they have figured out their backline. With Lever and May, I think both of them had excellent years. May in particular, I think he was
all Australian worthy, Stephen May?
I think he was.
Not in the 40. Not in the 40.
Not in the 40, no. But when you look at Gawn, I don't know. Maxie missed a few games. He was good this year. But Oliver, Petrarca, I thought you could get May in there. But midfield is still pretty solid. They'll have to find a bit of speed through there, a bit more speed. But their forward line is disastrous. And There's talk already about Tom McDonald moving on. Carlton, I think, have put their hand up to try and get him. Mitch Brown played a lot of footy there this year. I don't know. Talented guy, yeah, kind of. Good kick. But is he an AFL leading forward these days? So I think it'll be interesting to see what they do up front in order to give themselves some potency. What do you reckon, boys?
Well, it was an interesting season for them, mate. They tried a lot of things. So I think at the back end of it, if they're to take away the lessons from season 2020 and try and grab some of that, newfound knowledge and what players gelled and what positions more than others and all that kind of stuff that they go through, mate, I think you got to flip a coin with them. I think you can flip a coin to whether they'll improve a little bit or they will drop off a little bit drastically. I don't think they'll be in the same place next year. It'll be either a decent improvement or they'll drop.
Cool.
Yeah, it's another one of these clubs that must be so frustrating. Look, you look back at the preliminary final a couple of years ago, and is that just an outlier on where they're at? Did they overachieve? And people have debated that. Hey, I feel for. I've got some mates who are Melbourne supporters, and it's you're wondering which one's rocking up each week, and that's as a collective. So that comes down to individuals, and I think it's a leadership thing. Their two former captains probably not going to be there next year, Viney and Jones. I think Viney will move on. Everyone's being linked to Geelong. Isn't it good to hear? Finally, it's usually everyone's linked to Collingwood, but everyone's linked to Geelong. So he'll be somewhere else. And I think that they're just holding off. I think Nathan Jones, unfortunately for him, a great servant, a great loyal servant of the football club. And I liked his leadership. He led by example and from the front. But I think he might not be there next year. I'm pretty sure he's out of contract, 33, 34 years of age, maybe. But they've got some questions to ask coaching wise as well. But I think the money thing again is an issue. He re-signed at the start of the year as well, Simon Goodwin. It makes you think, boys, doesn't it? That's probably a whole other segment in itself. There's just ridiculous amounts of money that people are being signed to that then once you grab that contract, you hold on to it, don't you? Because, it's a lot of money. Take the payout. Like we just saw Seabold get a whopping payout up here at the Broncos. Like, so much money.
It is. And that's, the question mark is, well, if there's so much uncertainty, but there's still a desire for people to be at that highest level, why are they signing these coaches and untried coaches like Simon Goodwin? Why are they signing them to 3-year deals, 3+3? I mean, how do they actually know? But maybe that's the only way that they can actually do it. Maybe there's a coaches commission out there which talks about minimum tenure. But I can't understand how you sign up for so long.
I think that might be a little segment in one of the upcoming weeks. Before
we move on from that, and can I ask this? Harley Bennell, is that the end of the road now? What do you think?
No. Melbourne will give him one more go. 100% they will. It's got too much talent. But it'll only get one more.
Yeah.
For the 8th time.
You say one more.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
It scares me to think how good he could be, but he just keeps making so many big, like they're not little mistakes, they're such big mistakes off the field. So look, for his family's sake and for his sake, I hope that he gets another go at it and makes a fist of it, but it's probably something that we all said at the start of the season. So
you think about next year, smaller lists, are you going to put someone with so much uncertainty? This sort of goes into the Jesse Hogan thing as well, is someone going to take a risk on someone who has had a fairly reasonable history of off-field demeanours, where they're going to go, well, hang on, we need to be a lot more risk averse with the way we pick our lists. Would you prefer a kid who we know is going to be dead set locked in, as much as you can find out? But I don't know. I think those more risky propositions are going to become far less desirable for these shortened lists.
I think what we'll explore, mate, at a later time is maybe international sports, especially football codes, at least rugby league and AFL in Australia, mate. Have they been in a bit of a bubble? Is this why people are paying overs and they're having a little bit of a guesstimate, a little bit of a gamble on some players? And if so, is the bubble about to burst? there's a lot to unpack with that. That might be coming up. But gents, let's get our finals tips in. We're going to try and rain down Shane sitting on 91. Nico, not too far away, 89, and myself lingering wildly on 81. Just like glorious curls. Just anyway. All right. So
can we do this twice? Can I pose that we do this twice? Because obviously we'll be on air next Wednesday with the first final being next Thursday. So these are just our initial thoughts, yeah? Or are these we're locking in our round one finals predictions? What are we saying?
No, all right, we'll wait.
Hunters that listen to us.
Yeah.
So you're saying we'll wait till next Wednesday?
No, I think that we should have a listen to what we're thinking at this point in time with players coming back from injury or locations and things. But then we'll obviously have a revisit of it next week. I can't see it's changing much, but yeah.
No, that's fine. Your uncertainty and fear leading into the final tipping series is deafening, Nick. So that just tells me that I'll come home strong as I always do. But, mate, let's get into the short pass this week. Brought to you by Curtain Trend for all your window furnishing needs. If you're on the Brisbane or the Gold Coast region, Curtain Trend, give them a call. Short pass this week, gentlemen. Shane, kudos to you, mate, for taking the lead this lovely evening. Where's your short pass going this week, mate?
My short pass is that I've got a strong feeling that there are going to be quite a few challenges in getting some of our Victorian friends to actually go home and lead this glorious. Unfortunately for us healthy Queenslanders, we've had a bit of a turn. We've missed spring. I think we've moved directly into summer, and it is particularly enticing on the beaches and in the broader regional landscapes that we offer here in the Southeast Queensland corner. So my short pass is that we are going to have a lot more family, friends, and interstaters with us over the Christmas break, and our shopping centres, car parks are going to get busier. So what are you going to do about it, Premier Palyachuk? What are you going to do about it? Anyway, that's it.
God, I can't wait to chop that one up. Nicky J, where's your short pass going this week, mate?
My short pass goes to my left foot, 36 years and never used. Nathan, where's your short pass this week?
I like that. My short pass this week is going to Freedom. So in a little bit of self-isolation at the moment. Nothing too serious, ladies and gents. So short pass goes to the Fam Bam. And this weekend, we're going to get our rocks off a little bit. It sounds a bit weird, but yeah, it'll be good. Going to hit the scene, introduce some young gents. But yeah, gentlemen, great episode. It was really good to dive deep on 2020, really, the season that was. We've got the final series coming up. A lot to come. So, gentlemen, always a pleasure. Ladies and gents, see you back here next Wednesday, 8 p.m.
Thanks, guys. Woo.